Hello, the Arc Minister here. Welcome to the Great Primeval Show. After the overwhelming positive response to the first episode, we've come back for a second episode with all new guests. Would you please introduce yourselves?
Hello, I am Welly, and I started to join the fandom about 5 years ago, which is crazy to think about because that was my freshman year in high school, and now I am a freshman at uni, which is crazy. And for Primeval-related stuff, I run a anomaly parody account, and I send out alerts about anomalies and, updates on where the agents are and in the field and whatnot. And then I also run a YouTube channel, and I have a bunch of fan videos so far. I think I have 7 Primeval fan videos up. If you guys want to check that out, I'm sure the Arc Minister will throw in all the links for that. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hi, this is Unreleased Score. You might have heard of my channel on YouTube. I create and upload either missing or unreleased tracks of music, mainly from paleo media, such as Primeval or Prehistoric Park or Walking with Dinosaurs. And I do other things as well on there, but it's just really great to be part of this Primeval show.
Yeah, it's great to have both of you on. I love listening to lots of Primeval music. And if you ever see Welly on Twitter, you'll notice that they reply to everything with a Primeval GIF, even if it isn't Primeval related.
I have a very large stock of Primeval GIFs.
Who doesn't?
Yes, there's so many. Okay, we'll move on to our first topic then.
All right, then you explain it.
This idea came from the first episode when Hodgepodge mentioned that the Arthropleura would have been captured by Oliver Leek in the new timeline. And that got me thinking, when could have Leek captured all the creatures from his creature army? There's only 2 creatures that we actually know when they were captured, which was Rex, when Caroline captured him, and the Smilodon, which Leek pretended had died. But we're going to deduce how the others could have been captured and when, because it's not explained, and I'm sure some people might not have ever thought about it.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, isn't it?
We have a list of all the creatures, because I'm trying to remember some of the ones
I can list them out for you.
Yeah.
The list of creatures are 1 Arthropleura, Rex, about 20 future predators, 2 mer creatures, 3 raptors, 2 males and 1 female, 2 Scutosaurus, 3 Silurian scorpions, and the Smilodon. So if we go from the series 2, the raptors, we sort of can figure out that the cleaner was at the shopping mall.
Yeah, my theory is that when they were chasing around the raptors in the mall, maybe the cleaner and some of Leek's men snuck into the anomaly and captured a couple.
Yeah, point, because it would have closed otherwise.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The anomaly closed.
I guess that's to a question, was... Because I always imagined with the cleaner that, he got injured and then he eventually joined Helen after that. But I guess in this scenario, he would have had to have been on Leek's team prior to all that.
Yeah, that brings up even more questions. Which I'm sure we'll look at Leek's organization one day, but we'll just stick to when he could have captured the creatures for today. Up next from Series 2 would be the mer creatures.
Well, we see him down at the where is it, the drain area where Captain Stephen are. We see him in the background in that shot.
The cleaner.
So he probably
army people there. Yeah, probably
ended up
after.
going in. He might have found the anomaly before the others did and gone in and got a few.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also a point to note: at the end of the episode, Leek gets told to seal the anomaly site with concrete, so he could have had
ample
unrestricted
time
access to the future anomaly afterwards at any point to collect them.
Says you idiot.
Exactly, yeah.
Then next in Series 2 would be the 3 Silurian scorpions.
Well, we see the anomaly open up at the end when it opens up at the amusement park place. So I'm assuming when the others kind of walk away after they kind of get their little argument with Lester or whatever, I'm assuming Leek kind of snuck over and was doing his own thing.
Yeah, and obviously they're not the same ones that they see in the anomaly because they're much smaller, so they have to be.
And they couldn't he couldn't have done it earlier because he tried to send his people in at the beginning of the episode and then they all got eaten. So he had to
Yes.
have gone in afterwards.
Yeah, so he could have collected the scorpions afterwards in the second anomaly because, of course, the first one closed and the cleaner would have died in the first anomaly. So,
Yeah. Well, that particular version of the cleaner, there were multiple clones, obviously, weren't there?
yeah, well, yes, the original.
So a whole nother question is when did he get cloned? At what point?
Yeah, very
It's a whole
confusing.
nother issue.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll come back to that again later.
So many questions.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it for Series 2. Then going back to Series 1, when could have Leek captured the Alpha Plura in the new timeline without Claudia Brown there?
Well, assuming he kind of filled in for all of Claudia Brown's...
Yeah, everything appears to be the exact same apart from Claudia's not
Well,
there.
Well, I guess the
maybe
question is, did he go in before or did he go in after? Because if he goes in before, it almost kind of disrupts the whole Steven and, Nick Cutter getting, attacked by the Arthroplura. I'm wondering if it played out the same because we never really know because they never discuss it.
Do we think it's the same Arthroplura as the one in the episode, or is it a different one he got from the anomaly?
That's true.
That is interesting. Yeah, maybe it's the same one, or maybe it's just a completely new one. But that would be interesting if it's actually the same one.
Because they didn't really have the anomaly closers back then, and so
yeah, they specifically say in episode 3 of Series 1 that the anomaly's showing no signs of closing. So
yes,
gone back at any point.
Yeah.
And then the last ones are 2 Scutosaurus. Now these are the only herbivores in the creature army. Yeah, so when could have Leek captured these and why did he pick herbivores instead of a Gorgonopsid?
Yeah, that's a good question. Are those the biggest animals in the thing? I'm just curious, what's the largest animal he caught? Because if he tried to capture, the Gorgonopsid, maybe it was too big. But then again, he has the future predators, so I don't know. I mean...
Yeah, it could have been too big and too dangerous.
Isn't the larger of the 2 Scutosaurus larger than the Gorgonopsid anyway?
Huh, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's not as dangerous then.
I mean, you see a whole herd of them, so
yeah,
you could easily have got one, and we don't know when.
Well, there was the 2 anomalies, so I guess it depends which one he would have gone through. Did he go through when the original one?
Yes, that being the original Forest of Being anomaly.
Or did he go through the second one when it reopened and they were trying to put the future predators back?
Well, he could have gone through the second one, because I think the first one was the kind of first one for everyone, so he wasn't prepared for it.
That's true.
Yeah, and the second one, while the team are looking for the future predator in the Forest of Dean, Leek could have had time with the anomaly to go in and collect some before they went on the mission to the Permian.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Question is then, did he grab the future predators during that episode then? Is that when all of that started?
It's possible.
Maybe he grabbed one of the kids or something and started cloning them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting.
How would they have grown so quickly, though?
It's a good question.
I think it's implied that Helen may have collected them when she got the neural clamps in from the future and just brought the predators back as well.
It's a whole other question.
Yeah, I think we're bringing up more questions than answers here. Well, that's it for all the known creatures, but just one thing I wanted to mention is that in episode 7 of Series 2...
I've positioned another dozen creatures in similar locations. Call off the search, or I shall let them go one by one.
Which we never quite find out what they are.
Yeah, they kind of disappear into the wind. I hope they didn't just get let out somewhere, because that would be an issue. Because the Ark's limitation is very much to just, the UK, and we kind of see that limitation in New World a little bit. So, yeah, hopefully they stayed in their cages and didn't cause any havoc, because that would be a problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
The only one we know about is the scorpion. That's the only one we see.
That's right.
Chances are they'll probably just more of the same species he had in the prison.
Yes, that's quite possible. Yeah. Or any of the other creatures from Series 1 or Series 2 could have been, but we can't really speculate.
No.
Okay, moving on, we're going to...
What you have here is an interesting theory, but one mostly based on guesswork.
Today's theory we're going to be talking about at the end of Series 4 when Danny Quinn and his newly rediscovered brother Patrick Quinn left to the Pliocene. What happened to them after that? And when could we see them again? Because that storyline is currently unresolved.
That always really bugged me, that storyline never got resolved.
Yeah. Their whole relationship kind of bugged me to begin with, because his whole thing was that, like, he came back so that he could, seek revenge upon Danny, and then when he finally meets Danny, he, like, wimps out, and then he just leaves. And I was just like, okay, you're not a very good villain. End up, being Danny's downfall. Either he would kill Danny, or he would get killed himself, and then Danny wouldn't be able to, stop that from happening. I mean, I don't really see a happy ending with these two, but that's just me.
No.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think the only reason why he didn't hurt Danny was because he was his brother in that case, even though he's cross with him.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it would have made sense more if he appeared with Patrick again in Series 5 instead of Emily.
Oh, yeah, that would have been great.
Because she doesn't really do much in Series 5.
She doesn't. And that kind of makes me sad, because she had a really great, like, one-off episode with her and Matt, and then she just kind of fades into the background, and it was just like, well, then what's the point of bringing her back?
Yeah.
I think there's a few Series 4 characters we would have liked to have seen again, like Duncan, Danny, Jenny, and Patrick again.
Yeah.
Okay, we sort of speculated on what immediately happens, but like, how would you like to see them return to the series? Like, what situation would they come back in?
Well, I mean, I'd quite like it if one episode of a new series was to open with them sort of in the past, with Patrick being in pursuit of Danny, and then that whole episode's just about them before we rejoin the other characters.
Okay, yeah.
That'd be fun. I would enjoy that, yeah. It'd be nice seeing kind of Danny in the past, because we don't really see him in the past. We see, obviously the little clip of him with the I can't talk. The hominids. Thank you.
Hominids.
Yes.
Great.
There we go. But we don't really see what his, life was like back then. We saw Connor and Abby's life in the Cretaceous, but not his. So I would have been really interested to see, how he survived and, what that was all like. And having an episode focus on his relationship with his brother would be really interesting, because we don't get a whole lot between them.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the sentiment that I was thinking, because I was thinking they should have almost their own spin-off series. And yeah, just building off what you just said, Welly, where they got not a love-hate relationship, but he's going to kill someone unless your brother stops him type of situation.
Troublesome.
Yeah, so I was thinking having like a Captain America / Winter Soldier situation where one can't control himself and can't stop himself from hurting others. When Danny and Patrick come back to the present, and Danny has to go on the run with Patrick, stopping him from hurting other people, whereas being chased down by police. My idea for the series title would be Brothers Quinn.
Like that.
That'd be good. I think ultimately Patrick would probably get killed off somehow, and Danny would come back to join the Ark. That's how I see it.
Yeah, it's almost a can't win situation.
I don't see Patrick ever being reformed.
If they ever did a second series of New World, that would be a good place to bring them back, maybe.
Yeah,
that could have been interesting. Oh, Kathy has just mentioned read Cretaceous era theropods fanfic, where he writes about how Danny and Patrick could return in America. I'll put a link.
Yes, I read that.
I'll put a link to that in the description. Okay, we'll move on then.
Who could we give the camera to this time that could get us behind the scenes, get us access to things? When we couldn't get him, we got you.
Now, everyone knows and adores Rex the Coelurosaurus, and he's the mascot of Primeval. But how did they bring him to life from paper to screen? To begin with, Adrian Hodges and Tim Haynes would have chosen the species and written some scripts about him. That's the easy part. But how do you bring that into physicality? Well, Cilla Ware, the director for episodes 1, 2, and 3 in Series 1, was largely in charge of bringing Rex to life, but she was working with a big team of people. They wanted Rex to be cheeky but not in a sweet way, but in a naughty way. And that comes out in the scripts with Rex getting Connor into trouble and etc. Yeah, to begin with, Darren Hawley would have concepted Rex's look and texture, which is on the screen now.
I think his personality is kind of a bit too intelligent for his own species, isn't he? He feels too much more like a intelligent bird or a mammal, like a puppy.
Yes, that's exactly what they say in the behind the scenes. They say they decided to go with mammalian movements because lizards are not as active as mammals. Yeah, so the animators, one of them based most of Rex's movements on her cat to give that playful sort of movements. And Rex's head has like movements of birds, like quick looking around and everything. And then the prop was built all the scenes where the actors had to carry Rex or have him in situations where CGI would have been very difficult to animate. Crawly creatures took 2 weeks to build the mechanics for Rex. And you can see that only his head and tail move, but it looks very realistic.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that should be used a bit more, the animatronic, but you don't see much of it.
We didn't. I'm trying to remember, did the little frill on his head move at all?
The frill didn't move, but it could be manually tilted up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Then the final thing was giving Rex a voice. Now, apparently everyone had their own idea about how Rex should sound. Yeah, because reptiles have limited vocals, they wanted to give Rex a more personality-based sound than reptiles. And what they decided to do was to pick an animal that already had character in its voice. So they decided upon a raccoon as the base of Rex's voice. And then they added elements of frog in to give that almost bark in Rex's voice.
I think it works pretty well the way they've done it.
It was a bird for some reason, but it surprised me when I realized it was a raccoon. I was like, oh my God, how ingenious. I wouldn't have thought to use that. Same with the toads, but I think it works really well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting sound that they chose for him and very personality. That's why I'm sure we all love Rex very much.
It's nice because it's unique too. I feel like they use, just in general in media, they tend to reuse the same kind of like vocal sounds for a lot of creatures. So I'm glad that they picked something very distinct for him and gave him his own voice.
Yes. That's what I love about Primeval as well, that they individually create the sounds for every creature and don't use any stock sounds or stock roars.
Well, it's like Walking with Dinosaurs. They did that as well, didn't they? That's what makes it more...
Yes. All the Impossible Pictures productions have their own sound design.
Which if you compare it to like Planet Dinosaur, is very different because they just got about 3 roars which they just reuse over and over.
Yeah, or use sounds of a bear or a cow or an elephant.
Yeah, it's so just obvious when you hear it.
Okay, we'll move on to...
You'll be a highly strung and temperamental team of amateurs who just happen to be brilliant at what they do.
Now, on my Twitter, I did a poll asking, how would you rank Stephen Hart?
Drum roll, please.
Yes, for Stephen Hart, he got 36% said amazing, 52% said good, 12% said meh, and nobody voted for forgettable. And then calculating all that up, that gives Stephen Hart 81% from the 25 votes, and that puts him into first place, just above Sarah Page.
I mean, you could never class Stephen as being forgettable, really,
No.
after that massive death scene he gets in the last episode of Series 2.
Oh no, that's definitely not forgettable. Music and everything.
Yeah, it's just very good. Well, not good that he dies, but,
Well, yeah, but...
We know what you mean.
I'm curious what your thoughts on his character overall are, because I really enjoyed him in season 1, and then season 2 I felt like he struggled to make me like him, but obviously he had ties with Helen and that made it complicated. But I think towards the end he definitely redeemed himself. Sadly it ended in his death, but I definitely miss the kind of playful Stephen that we see in, series 1, where it's not all, doom and gloom. But
Yeah, well, we could say that it's almost a timeline change, possibly.
Mhm.
But I think he's largely the same character, but he's just a bit more almost cynical of the anomaly operation in Series 2. He's more questioning of what they're doing.
Well, that's why I like episode 2.1, because it feels more like series 1, because he hasn't got all of the connections with Helen yet, because he hasn't started seeing her again.
Yeah, well, I'll just quickly say his backstory. Stephen, he became a junior fencing champion and junior shooting Olympic prospect in high school. He was extremely fit and could run 30 miles a week, and he gained his lightning reactions and extreme physical fitness from this. Stephen developed a strong feelings that humans were killing the earth and conservation of wildlife became very apparent to him. Stephen eventually went to university and met Professor Nick Cutter and his wife Helen. And during this period, he had a much regretted affair with Helen. Then at some point after completing his studies, he took a job as Nick Cutter's lab assistant. But at some point, Helen disappeared, and then Nick and Stephen became firm friends, even though not finding out about the affair.
Yeah, Helen is kind of very annoying the way she tells Cutter about the relationship she had with Stephen. It's just kind of very mean to him, I think.
yeah, definitely a rub in the face because she, saw the two of them, Cutter and Claudia, kissing, and so this was her way of being like stabbing him in the back, like ha ha.
Oh yeah, take that. Yeah, it's almost as if Stephen sort of bounces off the characters of Nick and Helen.
Mhm.
He almost can't exist without them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What you said earlier about Series 1, what I love is how close him and Nick's bond is. Like Stephen can read facial cues from Nick, like without saying anything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then also he's not afraid to stand up to Nick at any point, even though he usually follows his lead.
Nick usually puts him back in his place.
Yeah, but then yes, Stephen normally follows Nick, and then he's not afraid to stand up to him when he has strong feelings or thinks that he's wrong.
Mhm.
But Stephen's not always right in some cases, like with the mer creatures in the canal. Do we want to talk about his feelings about the anomaly operation in Series 2, about how he was almost fundamentally challenged by it?
Well, I think he's only really against it, mainly because of Helen's manipulation of him. She keeps persuading him that Lester is kind of the big enemy, and everything they're working for is kind of a bad thing.
Yeah, that does come back to a Cutter manipulating him again.
Yeah, he does start. I think most of his ideas on this kind of start in the second episode, but I'm trying to remember, does he even...
Do you ever wonder if what we're doing is right? Maybe the anomalies have a purpose. Maybe we should stop fighting and face them. People should know what's happening, because we're going to need to prepare for whatever comes next.
Just tell everyone.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to remember, though, if we don't really see too much of what happens with him and Helen in that episode, because I know she comes back, but he does seem kind of disgruntled that she's there. But I don't know how much she tried to persuade him of, the Ark's, fallibility.
Yeah, there's almost a cut scene there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Stephen's feelings were always there, but then, as you said, Helen sort of manipulated it out of him and made it more extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he kind of tries to persuade Abby as well in, is it episode 6, where he's kind of talking to her.
That's right.
With the mammoth.
Yeah.
Oh, quickly, speaking of Abby, what about their relationship? Quote unquote relationship.
Yeah. It doesn't really work out, does it, unfortunately?
Yeah.
I think Connor was probably a better bet anyway.
Yeah, so interestingly, Abby and Stephen's relationship probably would have been more prominent in Series 1 if it wasn't for Andrew Lee Potts, who's Connor Temple, having more chemistry with Abby and her spirits. So they were actually planning to have Stephen and Abby be more of a thing in Series 1, but then Connor sort of swooped in and stole her.
It would have been kind of interesting to see if Connor and Stephen had a scene together discussing Abby, kind of.
Yeah.
There is in the Scorpion one almost, where Stephen's giving Connor advice on
Go ahead.
what to say to Abby.
Well, the question is, I guess, in the timeline change, does their relationship change? Was there ever a Stephen and Abby relationship to begin with when the timeline changed, or?
Oh yeah.
I mean, because in some ways it always struck me as if like it just kind of like changed completely, like especially Connor's character changed a lot in my mind. He always seemed kind of like weird to me in the first season. I wasn't a fan of him in the first season, but I absolutely loved his character throughout the rest of the series, and he is my favorite character. But I don't know, he just changed a lot, and I feel like even Steven changed a little bit and Abby changed a little bit. So I'm wondering if any of their relationships ended up changing based off of that.
It's certainly possible that little details changed in the new timeline. What I do like is how Connor has always been sort of respectful in like a older brother sibling type way to Steven, that after Helen's affair was revealed, Connor always still treated him as part of the team, where the rest of the team almost shunned him out.
I mean, Abby's kind of a bit neutral in that situation. She doesn't really...
I don't think Abby talks to Steven hardly at all in series 2, except for work.
It's just that one scene. Yeah. Does Steven ever have any... We don't see him talk too much to Leek or to Lester, despite the fact that he's so convinced that Lester is the one who's, causing all this trouble.
Yeah, I think that's exactly why he doesn't talk to Lester much, because he's highly distrustful of him because of Helen's manipulation.
I mean, why wouldn't you trust Lester?
Yeah, he's very trustworthy. Yeah, so we have to come back to Steven's sacrifice at the end. I'd say it's almost one of the most highly rated deaths in Primeval of a character.
Mm-hmm.
It's very emotional with the music, and it's almost set up all season that Steven's drifting apart from the rest of the team, only to come back and save them and stop the creatures at the end.
Yeah, it's kind of the most dramatic death any character gets in any of the series as well, apart from maybe Cutter.
I'd probably lean slightly more towards Steven's being a bit more emotional, but...
Yeah, they kind of...
in the episode, yes. Not from a character point of view, from the episode's point of view, it's definitely more emotional.
I'm curious what your guys' thoughts on him sacrificing himself are. Just like the standpoint of like, would you have preferred if Helen had been the one to, go in there, or would you have preferred it to be Steven or Cutter?
Oh yeah, watching the episode originally, I was certain that Nick was going to die, and I was like, no! And then to have that reveal that Steven just like, nah, I'm doing this one, mate. It was like, oh my gosh.
I don't think Helen would ever have done it.
No, she wouldn't have done it, but I kind of wish the others...
No.
I kind of wish the others had pushed her more, because, it was her fault that all of this happened. But I get why, from a story standpoint, it works with Steven. As much as it hurts to see him die, I think redemption-wise, it does work. So
yes, it does. Still sad though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's what confused me about Cutter's death, though, because Steven gets this massive funeral sequence.
Oh yes, that just hits home as well. Yeah.
I think we were discussing this somewhere on the Discord about like what would happen if the characters had been given a proper send-off, like for Sarah and for Cutter and for any of the other characters that died, whether it was like a scene kind of like Steven's where you get the funeral, or just kind of like a montage sequence, kind of appreciating their characters and whatnot.
Yeah, that's what I enjoyed, that Steven gets a send-off, whereas most of the other characters don't, unfortunately.
Character to die, right? I mean, we see Claudia obviously disappears, but I think he's the first like main character to actually die in the series, right?
Apart from Captain Ryan.
Captain Ryan, yes. His death was painful, too. I'm not going to lie.
Yes, but yeah, Steven was almost the first main character to die, because narratively Claudia came back as Jenny's, but yeah, Steven's the main one to actually leave the series.
Just going back to Cutter's death, I know we're supposed to be talking about Steven, but I like Cutter as well. I was just thinking it would make sense if Series 3, Episode 4 kind of opened with his funeral, or at least some kind of tribute to him, because you don't really get anything apart from what you see in the episode.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting as well.
That would have worked really well. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on then to...
This database contains constant and all non-extinct vertebrates.
This week I asked on my Twitter poll, how would you rank the Giganotosaurus, or as Connor Temple dubs it, the G-Rex, which is a bit inaccurate, but anyway. So yeah, my poll said 59.1% said amazing, 31.8% said good, 4.5% said meh, and 4.5% said forgettable. And calculating all that up, that gives the Giganotosaurus 86% from 22 votes. And that puts him into first place above the Arthropleura.
I really enjoyed the Giganotosaurus. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, it's got a pretty cool design,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got an interesting episode attached to it.
Yeah.
I thought it was nice that they didn't go the cliche route of, oh, it's a T-Rex. That was what surprised me at first. I was like, oh, okay, we get our T-Rex episode. Here it is, the big reveal. But it wasn't.
Yeah.
And that was great. And I appreciate that they picked something that isn't in the mainstream, paleo media of when you think about dinosaurs, because I think that sets Primeval apart. It didn't go down that cliche route, and it kind of stood on its own legs, and it gave the creature its own really standout episode. So I was really happy about that.
Yeah, that's what I've always enjoyed about Primeval.
Yes, it's a good aspect. So the Giganotosaurus is definitely a well-praised creature in that series because it kills Mick Harper.
Yes, and it also kills several other people, including Mick's boss, Catherine, and I think a cameraman dies there. But
there's also a certain wildlife presenter who is also present at the scene.
Yes, the man himself from Prehistoric Park turns up and finds himself staring at the jaws of a Giganotosaurus, which he's previously encountered in Chased by Dinosaurs. But in this situation, the G-Rex eats our beloved Nigel Marvin.
Yeah, I mean, that was such a surprise when I first saw him come out of the car in that episode, but then he just gets eaten straight away, which is really upsetting.
Yeah, Nigel survived many a prehistoric creature, and I think it was almost supposed to be a gag that this was the one that got him.
Yeah, well, you never know. Maybe Helen cloned him and that was just a clone.
Oh, yes.
I mean, technically, we don't actually see him get eaten, though. We just see it going for him. So, I mean, he could have, survived. We just don't know.
Yes, some fans have joked that Nigel ran through the anomaly, and that's why he appeared in the Land of Giants with the Giganotosaurus in Chased by Dinosaurs.
Except for the fact that the Giganotosaurus in that is a completely different design.
A different subspecies.
Well, maybe.
Possibly. So the Giganotosaurus was a giant Charodontosaurid dinosaur from Argentina, which lived in the Cretaceous 100 to 97 billion years ago. And it's larger than a Tyrannosaurus rex, but possibly smaller than a Spinosaurus, depending on how you define Spinosaurus with all the redesigns, but we won't get into that. Yeah, so I think that in this episode, it's almost a rebound creature after losing Nick Cutter.
Yeah, it's a shame that it doesn't really appear again.
Yeah, so it's not a highly threatening creature as presented in the episode, but what it does in the episode, it's quite memorable. It on an airport runway, terrorizing everyone. So that's got quite a few memorable scenes in there with it running down the tarmac and trying to eat the airplane, trying to get the people underneath the airplane and then chasing the helicopter.
First episode, we see Danny really kind of try and join the team, right?
Yeah, it's Danny's first main creature. Danny's first main creature as the pseudo leader. Yeah, he's actually the one who deals with the gig. So
yeah, he saves everyone.
Yeah, so there's not terribly much to say about the gig because it's only in the second half of the episode that it turns up. But yeah, it does get some memorable scenes. So it definitely makes its screen time worth it.
And I think it helps too that it shows up on so many of the Series 3 advertisements.
Yes. It's used for almost every single Series 3 promotion. It's on the soundtrack box.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's on the Series 3 box. It's on the Series 1, 2, and 3 box set. It's almost everywhere.
Yeah, I think they just kind of wanted a dinosaur on the front just so it would get the audience's attention. Because if you put something like Gorgonopsid, they might not understand what it is if they haven't seen the show.
They might be like, oh, it's an alien creature or something. Yeah, but the Giganotosaurus looks very much similar to a lot of the other theropods that are in mainstream media.
Yeah, it's recognizable enough to look like a dinosaur that Jurassic Park fans or similar would recognize.
It's going to be in mainstream media soon with Dominion coming out.
Yes, that'll be interesting to compare that. Okay, that brings us to the end of episode 2 of The Great Primeval Show. You can come chat with us on the Primeval Discord, where there's a watch party every Saturday, 3 p.m. UK time. We've just started Series 1 on the Saturday just gone, but you can join us for episode 2 of Series 1 on the 13th of March. Again, thank you for all those who've commented on this series, and I hope to read out your comments in the next video, but I'll show them on screen here. And then a very special thanks to our guests for this week's. Thank you for joining, Sikander and Welly.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. It's nice to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure we'll have you on again at some point, but thank you for contributing. Okay, join us next time and make sure you vote on the polls for the next creature and characters, which is up on my Twitter, which I'll link. Thank you very much for joining.